hilarious. Love it.
This is Robert Little with BSO Entertainment. I really appreciate you guys taking out the time to speak with me. The first question I had, and this has been going through my mind since I saw the teaser that you guys sent, was what was the thought process of making a movie about Buzz Lightyear that wasn't about the toy, but was actually about the movie that the toy was based off of? I think that's ingenious. What was the thought process behind that?
Well, I love movies and I love toys, and the toys were the extension of the movie. Like when I was a kid, I saw Star Wars like once in the theater, and that was it. It was gone, and it was before we had video, so I relived the movie in toys. And so my relation to Toy Story was very much imagining where those toys came from and their source material. I'd always liked Buzz Lightyear because he was an amalgam of the start of the science fiction franchises that I'd grown up with, and it was meant to be, a lot of his punchlines were based around this kind of shared knowledge of these kind of corny sci-fi tropes. But I really liked the source material, and I wondered, could you make a serious sci-fi movie that was funny in a character way and not parody or satire, but felt like a source material movie that was a legitimate sci-fi film, like those classic sci-fi movies.
And with writing that character, I think that's how did you get into that mindset? Because like you said, in Toy Story, it is supposed to come off a little bit as a parody that he doesn't know and everybody else knows. But in this movie, you know, it's supposed to be a little different, where this is the serious, this is exactly what's happening. What's the challenge with that?
Well, I think you want to keep him grounded, but have allusions to why is he the way he is? Like, why is he so mission focused? Why does he read the mission log the way he does? He's very driven, and expanding that character to be believable while not losing the charm of the lantern-jawed square guy who doesn't get everything, and is a little. It's just like can be the butt of jokes, but isn't too cynical and isn't too dumb. Like it's a balance of all these.
Fine line that you have to walk. He can't be too anything.
Well, it was trial and error, honestly. But I think we'd worked on the movies so much before. Like that was a bedrock of like, we're not going to mess it up. We'll find it. I feel like we know the character internally for ourselves. It wasn't like, oh no, what if we mess it? It's not. It's just more like, how do we get the right pieces in place? And that was just trial and error.
So last question I would say then, would this be considered like a prequel to the Toy Story franchise? Whereas if you want to go back like me as an adult who grew up with Toy Story, should I watch Lightyear first and then go into it?
It's a great question. I would say you can, although I think of it more of as a side quel. It's not necessary to have seen either of them. They could be enjoyed independently. But we wanted to make it so that this wouldn't ruin anything about the Toy Story. You could watch it out of, sometimes if you watch things out of order, it can kind of give you more information. Hopefully this will be no additional information that will be out of the way, out of the order.
Well, definitely from what I've seen, it was amazing. I was surprised. I didn't exactly know what direction it was going to go in, but once I realized what you guys were doing, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be really, really good. So thank you. Thank you so much for the time, and I can't wait to watch the entire thing when it comes out, because it looks like it's going to be, like I said, spectacular.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a great day. This is Robert Little with BSO Entertainment. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for taking out the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. The first question that I had for you is, as being the director of photography, we kind of have an idea of what that's like on a kind of a regular movie set and everything. How does that work with a Pixar animation style movie? What does your job change any, or how does it change?
Yeah. So imagine it's the same job. I'm still trying to figure out where the characters are in the scene, how we're shooting it, where the camera's pointing, the camera motion, composition, all that stuff. It's all on the computer. So I can make as many mistakes as I want, and then I can fix them, right? As opposed to live action, like, oh, I just backed the camera into Chris Evans and now I'm in trouble, right? Like we're good. It also allows us to make changes more faster and more often. So for example, on a live action shoot, they finish at the end of the day, and that's it, right? That's the footage they've got. Maybe they get to do a reshoot later, but if something's not working, they have to make it work in other ways through editing or whatever. we'll send a bunch of shots, a whole scene with different coverage and different ideas to our editor, and then we'll sit with the editing team and talk about what we're thinking, and they'll talk about what they're thinking, and they'll put something together. We'll look at it and we'll kind of go, yeah, this works. Would it be better if we did this? Or they'll say, I could really use a shot to bridge this cut. Like, what do you think we could do there? We can iterate over that stuff and generate more footage, which is really powerful because it keeps things malleable. It lets you really hone the scene before it gets to animation, before it's too late, right? And it lets you continue to do that as you go. So like, we'll set stuff up. If the animator is blocking Buzz and says, oh, I think actually he should be standing here. Great, we can change that now that you're here, just like an actor would be. We can fix that. Let's rework this and now try. Or whatever might be happening, like, oh, the focus is changed a little bit. So, okay, let me go back and fix the focus. It takes me 3 minutes as opposed to going to the producers and saying, yeah, that whole roll of film came back and it's not in focus. Can you get Chris Evans back? Can we do that? Can we just put him back in the cockpit?
Yeah.
What do you mean you threw away the cockpit? Like, well, okay. I mean, I'd be looking for another job.
Yeah.
So it's just this extra flexibility, but it also is this extra responsibility that because everything is like, everything in the world you're seeing is fake. There's no live action, anything. There's nothing real, right? It's all just a facade. It's all an illusion. The camera has to have a weight to it. It has to feel real in a sense. Film goers are so savvy that they understand when something doesn't look right. They can feel it. Like if you see a shot that's weird or something that's like a hitch or something strange or a crazy camera that doesn't ever feel like you could get in live action, no matter your tricks, it throws you out of the film a little bit. And then it makes you question everything else. So I want the audience to believe that Buzz Lightyear is doing these crazy things on this cool planet and just be invested in him and his friends emotionally. I don't want them thinking about like, oh, what just happened? Or, oh, this CG is really nice. Like, no, you don't get to think about the movie like, you just want to experience it. And then later you can go back, maybe watch it 2 or 3 more times and start to notice some of these other things. But I think the whole style of the film is designed around making it feel like a movie and not like something we made, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look, my time is up. That was probably the best explanation I've ever gotten of someone explaining how animation is different from live action. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And the part that I did see is exactly like you said. I don't even get caught up in that. I'm just watching a movie. And I think that's an amazing thing. That means you guys have done an amazing job. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Thank you so much.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
Robert Little, BSO Entertainment.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Robert. I love your background.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I try to do a nice one so people know that we're into the movie.
I love it.
I actually did some research on what a simulation supervisor does, but I would like for you to kind of explain it to people who maybe not know exactly on a movie what that person actually does.
I'm so happy to tell you. So as a tailoring and simulation supervisor, my job is to lead a team that takes what we know about art and fashion to build the costumes, and what we know about math, science, and classical mechanics to simulate or perform with those costumes and with hairstyles.
That's interesting because, Buzz Lightyear is known for, what he has on and the uniform and things of that nature. And I noticed there's several different ones in there. Do you guys, when you're doing that, is it a particular year or period you're looking for? Or do you try to make it unique for the character that's been in other, movies before?
I love that question. So when we're starting to think about like Buzz Lightyear in his spacesuit, we know that we're going to have to dress him like over decades and like how does space exploration, spacesuits change over decades? So we have like the first suit, the XL1 that we need to design. And we're going to really ground that in like, human space exploration and like the first flights there, like Apollo mission, Mercury mission, and with some cool like sci-fi references of other movies, and like the aesthetic design of like chunk that we see in like 70s and 80s technology. So like putting all that together helps us define like the white suit that we see in the beginning, the XL1. And we know we have to work towards the Space Ranger costume that we all know and love. So we know we have to like make that journey and that path. And then in the middle, we're going to spend some time with Buzz in an orange suit that's kind of like right between these two suits. So we get to think about the elements that are going to be a perfect middle ground. So you're going to see like the oxygen tube is integrated better into the chest box, and the chest box is bigger. And the helmet is like, a little bit more natural for motion. Now he can move like his neck around like, more easily. We can see that. And the wrist communicator is like built in like to the ring on the glove. Like everything is just so much better integrated. And then we're going to end up in the Space Ranger costume that we all know and love. And that's like fully mechanical and like tiny details, with like just a little bit of cloth like in the gloves, but mostly it's just like mechanics on mechanics on mechanics. And like when you've got enough, we're going to add more mechanics to it. Because whatever's like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, how much fun is it? Because it's in the Toy Story movies, he's a toy. So, as a toy, it's lumpy and you kind of limited. You have all this free reign now because this is a real person now. How much more enjoyable is that to be able, like you were talking about, doing all those different little minor details and stuff?
It was so much fun to think about what would this costume look like that was designed by humans for a human. So, and like, then that would have inspired the toy. So we start by like looking at the toy and going like, okay, in a silhouette, like what are the iconic moments in this costume that we know we have to carry over? And so it's like, okay, the helmet, the ball joint shoulders, like the pointy elbows and the pointy knees and like the flared feet, like all that needs to come over. But what we want to leave behind is like all the manufacturing details that show you that this is a toy. So like the plastic seams and like the screw sockets, like all that kind of stuff that like shows you that like that's a toy that's designed by humans. We want to leave that behind. Awesome. So what we do is we build a human Buzz Lightyear in the computer because we know we're going to need that because like there's moments where he's wearing a t-shirt and a jumpsuit and all these things. So we build that and then we start like roughing in those iconic shapes. So like the ball, like shoulder joints and the helmet, like we rough that in and like super interactively, our director and our character designers, our model and rigging artists and our animation artists are like on the fly proportioning these pieces to try to like make it look like these iconic elements are on a human, which is really cool. Awesome. And then when we get that, that's when we start thinking about like the really intricate modeling detail that show that this was made for a human by a human. So like all the cool manufacturing detail and like sliding, hinging pieces, like all of that we get to dig into. And then the shading goes on top of that. So like wherever you have like two pieces that are integrating, maybe some color is worn away, right? Where those two joints touch each other, like all that's happening at human scale. And then the graphics on top, that's new for the suit, right? Like do not block in front of the vent or like this side up in front of the wrist communicator. It's covered in communication so that like in the event of an emergency, the wearer knows how to pilot this spacesuit, which is really cool.
Wow, that is great. That is great. Thank you so much. I feel like I know so much more now about the all of the inside things about that. So thank you so much. And you have amazing Monday energy. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. You too. I've really enjoyed our time together. Thank you.
You have a good day.
Thanks, you too.